Why does the vegan restaurant exist? Does the vegan restaurant exist as a place for vegans? Or does it exist as a place to reach out to and make comfortable non-vegans? To cater to non-vegans? And do you sacrifice the principles of veganism through outreach itself?
À-bas-le-ciel.
Hi guys. Did you know they make those jackets with priorities? Not everybody knows. But I mean, it's a vegan restaurant, right guys? This is the right place to be wearing it.
I think the fundamental problem here I want to address is this problem of thinking of veganism in terms of outreach as opposed to thinking of veganism in terms of principle. And the assumed tension between the two. That if we take a stand on a matter of principle, then we're not reaching out to non-vegans. We're not making this kind of effort. There was a memorable video from a guy called Vegan Nut. Vegan Nut is a friend of Vegan Gains, to my knowledge. They're both based in Toronto. Vegan Nut in a restaurant yelling at people because they were wearing fur coats inside a vegan restaurant.
You made your point.
No, I didn't make my point because you're still here.
She's serving me. Can you tell me to stop talking to us?
That's disgusting.
I'm going to call the police. Why are they? They're harassing us.
Do you think those animals were harassed when they were skinned alive for a fashion statement?
Okay. Now, the owner of the restaurant didn't like that. The owner or the manager, could be the manager, but the boss present in the restaurant. The boss said, no, this restaurant's open to everybody. We want meat eaters here. Yeah.
I know, but man, I reached out to them respectfully.
Why does the vegan restaurant exist? Does the vegan restaurant exist as a place for vegans? Or does it exist as a place to reach out to and make comfortable non-vegans? To cater to non-vegans? And do you sacrifice the principles of veganism through outreach itself? To me, this is parallel. This is parallel to this question of, idiots like unnatural vegans saying, well, we shouldn't really, it would be extreme to actually preach veganism. We should just, preach meatless Mondays and this horse shit. Basically conflating veganism and flexitarianism or whatever you want to say. Yeah, I don't know. What if you had a vegan restaurant that actually refused to admit people because they were wearing fur? What if you have a vegan restaurant that refuses to admit people because they're wearing wool? What if you have a vegan restaurant that refuses to admit people because they're wearing leather shoes? That's most of the population in Toronto, in New York, in most Western countries. The majority of people are wearing leather shoes, leather boots. What if there's a middle path? What if people enter the restaurant wearing leather shoes and at the door you have a coat check and say, I'm sorry, could you change into these slippers? Like a Japanese restaurant or Japanese, different types of Japanese institute. Japanese style, you have some plastic sandals, some plastic slippers you can get them. Sorry, could you take off your leather shoes here at the door and wear these plastic slippers inside? This is a vegan restaurant. I'm sorry, I realize you have a fur coat. Can you leave your fur coat in the coat check? There is a middle way. There is. But a lot of people would say no and would walk out of the restaurant, right? They'd say, forget it. I'm not taking off my shoes to sit here and eat with you vegan idiots. Sure. A lot of people would turn around. You would lose a lot of business. Walk out the door. I think there's an interesting parallel. I would not do what Vegan Nut had done in that video. In that video, Vegan Nut just verbally, excoriates these people for daring to wear a fur coat in a vegan restaurant. I wouldn't have done that. I think it's only the role of the manager or the waiter or the owner or the boss. I think that's the role of the restaurant owner to make that decision. I think it's not my role as a patron. I think I could go and ask the waiter. I could ask the manager, but I would not myself kick out a customer because it's not my business. It's not my decision. And to give a more extreme example in parallel, What would you do if somebody walks into a Jewish synagogue, into a Jewish temple, wearing a Nazi swastika, wearing a Nazi symbol? The most obvious, the easiest answer is to say they should not be allowed to enter the Jewish temple, because you're assuming the purpose of the temple is for that exclusive community. Right? But the truth is, one of the most important and one of the most powerful things you can do in running a Jewish temple is outreach, is to reach out to anti-Semitic people, to reach out to neo-Nazis, and literally invite them into the temple and try to get them to see you as a human being. Right? Now, obviously, the level of hostility is on another level there. But in a sense, the most beautiful thing you could possibly do for the progress of human civilization would be to actively have outreach, to actively invite in anti-Semitic people who might be indeed wearing a swastika and sit down and have that conversation. It's a difficult question. I think, the reality is vegans need both. Vegans do need a place where they can sit down and say, this place is for us. This is by us, for us. This is our temple. And a lot of vegans are so morose and sick at heart, and maybe so confrontational, because they lack that in their lives. They don't have a synagogue they can go to. They don't have a temple they can go to. They may not have a family they can go to. If in your own house, in your own home, your parents are eating meat, it may be your own wife is eating meat or your own husband is eating meat. A lot of mixed couples like that. You feel hounded and disrespected and denigrated everywhere. And then when you go to that vegan restaurant, you sit down and you feel this is the one place I should not have to look at your fur coat or your leather shoes. This is the one place that's supposed to be special for me. It's supposed to be for me, right? But on the other hand, there's the question of outreach. And as I say, there's the question of remaining steadfast in our principles, of not compromising what veganism is in reaching out to meat eaters and inviting them in, ultimately, so they can sit down and have that conversation and see us as human beings.
À-bas-le-ciel.